Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Jehliel. I am here today to talk about the energies of the next week from April 20th until April 26th. So this is the week because, well, it have events that are marking, indicating closures of cycle, very important, and the beginning of something totally new and re-evolutionary in collective and individual terms. This is given by the by Uranus in Taurus moving out from Taurus and entering in this sign. We are not going to experiment, I mean the adults of today, Uranus in Taurus again, or at least it is not very probable, because this is going to be in more than 70 years. And well, you have videos already talking about this, both of these topics in the reproduction list that I always leave below. At the same time, the Sun today, April 19th, is entering in Taurus and is going to spend the whole week in a square with Pluto in Aquarius that I'm going to talk at the end of the video. With this, what I am trying to say it is that we are going to go through very intense days, very disruptive ones, and the nervous system could be a little bit altered. It happens, it is very common to experiment difficulty to sleep when we have aspects with Uranus, and if there are symptoms in the physical body, they are indicators sorry, of the energy that is not circulating and that we need to attend to manage. I think it is also vital to have in account that the experiences that could be manifested have the purpose to produce this great liberation, very related with the last 7 years, which is the cycle of Uranus in a sign. On the other side, we are going to receive like these downloads, actualizations, these downloads of energy and events also that are calling us to inhabit new ways of living our reality. And they are demanding flexibility to open ourselves to new ideas and paths that we haven't considered before. But that could be greatly, that can bring a lot of innovation, that can be creative, and that can bring renewal. So what we are experimenting are changes without return. And if we learn to see through the veils of reality, this means through the situations that we perhaps cannot control or we choose, even if they are generating rejection, if we see them as the impulse to make different moves, well, we could produce other kind of possibilities, amazing ones, and very evolutionary. Then I wanted to remind you that the new moon in Aries that was the last week is still a manifestation. In fact, the first transits that are going to be perfected this week are an essential part of that configuration, and we are going to begin there. April 20th, Mercury makes a conjunction with Mars and with Saturn in Aries. I talked a lot about this the last week, but I wanted to make this emphasis in the decisions, the decisions that we could make right now are indicating how we are going to move forward in the next months, the effects, the consequences of those actions, because Saturn is the builder of experiences in the long term. And it is the one that has the function to show us the areas in which we need to develop maturity, in which we need to establish healthy boundaries and to learn to invest our energy in a sustained way in time, even if this is not the most easy or comfortable thing to do. And well, if the Aryan energy is expressed in an impulsive way, quick decisions that we didn't observe, which is the motivation that they have behind, Saturn in Aries is like the kick, the hit, that we receive, because the energy could be a little bit like abrupt in here, sorry, to understand how we have to lower our acceleration. And we need to look or observe if what we are doing are actually coming from these selfish interests, and with selfishness or egoistical interests. I am referring to the ego, an imbalance of the ego. This means that if we are not considering the impact of our actions towards other people, or we are not or we are considering excessively what the environment desires, but we are not listening to our inner calling, both of them are imbalances of the ego. Some people are already experimenting this from the last week as restrictive situations, blockages, or lessons for, in order to learn to regulate ourselves. But we have to remember that restrictions or limitant situations that are linked with the function of Saturn, even if they are frustrating, they have a purpose. And perhaps this is about in areas, beginning something new, making decisions, thinking in the long term in the things that we truly want to build, or changing the direction because the one that we were choosing, it is not proposing evolutionary anymore. And to give a space to anger, it is also a key, to listen and to understand where we need to put ourselves, the boundaries to not explode or project in other circumstances or with people that don't deserve this. And at last, also remind you that conjunctions between Mercury and Saturn could also be traduced in its shadow as pessimistical ones, with this focus in everything that is negative in our reality, in ourselves, in the world. There is nothing wrong in observing what we recognize that we want to be different, that needs to change, or that we could even develop. But when we are looking through this filter, this black filter, everything, and we are only like complaining, we are feeding more this polarity of victimization that is not helping to ourselves. We could validate our emotions and at the same time making focus in what actually serves to build right now, or is a priority to transcend possible obstacles. The next transit that I'm going to talk about, we feel it from the beginning of the week too, because of the factors that I mentioned previously. I am talking about April 23rd. Venus makes its last conjunction with Uranus in Taurus. This is the last planet that has an encounter with him. So this is not a thing of April 23rd. Here, what is being moved is something that is a key, it is given in the degree 29. It is an anaretic karmic degree in astrology. And as I was saying, the manifestations are very related with the things that we have been doing in the last 7 years, linked with the Taurus area of our natal chart. We all have experimented changes there, situations that invited us to break with a paradigm of what we value and of what generally we consider stability genuinely, and how we are relating perhaps with our physical body and with the matter, with the resources. So many of these experiences, they implied not having any control over them and just simply opening ourselves to the purpose of change, and we are talking about losing things, economical movements, climatic changes, disruptions, radical cuts in relationships, or other areas that we associate with stability or material security, and also manifestations in the physical body, which are, things that could also happen this week. But also there is this possibility that people along, the transit of Uranus in Taurus, even if life brought this kind of movements, they didn't do something different. So this conjunction could be still producing the same resistances, or it is going to be about the same topic. And that could have very uncomfortable manifestations too, because if we are resistant to change, that is the constant of universe, we are resisting something that is very organic in ourselves. So Venus is the planet of relationships, involving, of course, the relationship that we sustain with ourselves, because from that is that we are choosing, bonding with people outside. Venus is that what we feel attracted to, that what we value, how we are giving value to ourselves, the inner resources that could contribute with us and with other people. So this conjunction could put a certain level of pressure, or even bringing a breakthrough regarding all of this. For many people, this is not about a new situation. If there is something that you need to free of, could be something that was already in a stagnation for a while, or that has time in your lives. So many times, as people are not making this choice by their own will, it is life the one that brings a situation that pushes us to make that. So this could be related to relationship, or a situation with a job, for example. And yeah, we could feel that the floor is moving, or this could be felt as destabilizing, or situations that we perhaps created the sensation of comfort, with quotation marks, but far away of bringing stability, they are making us staying in an infertile space. Also, in its aspect of shadow, this could mean making choices that we believe they are going to bring a certain radical freedom, whether this is from an inner state that we don't want to deal with, or an external situation, and doing that from a place that is not bringing any growth. Like, I'm going to put examples: beginning a new relationship, but the same old patterns that weren't assimilated nor observed, or seeking an economical opportunity, but it doesn't feel authentic with ourselves. It is just only that is focused in material goals, and later it is not producing any plenitude. So life is going to show us which is the genuine way of connecting with freedom, the freedom of the soul. And yeah, for some people it is about a decision, a specific decision, but for others it's a process. For other people it's a process of decisions, or giving form to something in reality. In fact, the next day, on April 24th, Venus enters in Gemini, and is going to stay there until May 18th. And on April 25th, Uranus goes behind her, and it is going to stay there until 2033. I wanted to transmit that if you are experimenting that sensation of anxiety, uncertainty, of being a little bit like unrooted or out of touch with reality, it is very important to seek for calming, to be more present, because other possibilities are being opened. It is that many times the crisis, it is the crisis that is breaking with that old order. It is the one that is enabling us to see those opportunities. And what is important to observe with the contact between Venus and Uranus in Gemini, that couldn't help. It is, for example, not consuming excess of information, or being thinking about 2000 possibilities in an accelerated way without asking ourselves if any of that has truly purpose to give, our mental focus, and to, lead us to be drained. On the other side, creative ideas, synchronicities could be powerful signs of what does require of our energy, and it is very important to open ourselves to the new, because what we thought in a fixed way, perhaps in Taurus, right now could have other aspects or perspectives that we didn't consider. And in fact, we could start discover that the paths that we were rejecting are actually very aligned with our desires of the soul that are attracting us. And what we were perceiving, was from this ancient mental structure. The energy of Gemini, it is about transiting life with this curiosity that children could express, of learning and discovering the world. What happens is that many times we lose it when we are creating these fixed conceptions of what the world is, that are coming from conditionings that we created because of previous experiences. So in the collective level, without doubts, these days we are going to have a certain kind of event, whether this is in a technological environment, climatic, economical, educational, because this is related with Gemini. This is also aligned with the with Uranus moving out from Taurus. It is a greater event. Revolutions, manifestations of the masses. Well, we are going to discover its expressions along the years. But because of other cycles of Uranus in Gemini, previous ones, we know that the revolution in the ways that we were thinking and conceiving reality could change radically. And this could destabilize structures of thought, especially for people that have this tendency to think in a dogmatical way, very closed. Again, I think it is a key to see events beyond our desires or preconcepts, but with a function in the collective of breaking or with a social structure that needs to be recreated and to be different, to contain an increasing of consciousness in a collective and individual way. We have to add that on April 25th, the Sun in Taurus perfects this square with Uranus in Taurus. Well, Venus did this the first week of April, so right now this tension is pushing us, to transform and to allow the death of an aspect of our identity with which we have been too much attached, perhaps, and could be related to external situations or ways in which we have created stability, emotional or economical. Squares with Pluto are never comfortable. I am very honest with this. I am referring that they are touching these fibers, these very intimate fibers, unconscious roots, our shadows and aspects that we are pushing, towards the darkness, because many times they generate rejection to observe. But if we have if we are willing to do so, even though we could feel that way, we could enable this very positive transformation. This square could also represent to face a fear of expressing ourselves in a more authentic way, or to choose to incorporate or put in practice a resource or a way of connecting with sustenance that perhaps we think that the environment is not going to approve, or that is disruptive perhaps for that environment. This square demands a lot of honesty with ourselves to look to those possible attachments to the matter, emotional ones, obsessions, that is also a quality of Pluto, that many times are leading us to stay in places where we are not giving value to ourselves, to our lives. That they are not bringing growth. And also this square could be letting go of perceptions that are making us feel very controlled by something or someone external, and they are taking away from us the freedom of growing, even if we are going through a period of darkness, of dealing with that darkness. Okay. On April 26th, I'm going to make a summary of this. The Sun in Taurus creates this sextile with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, and the trine with the South Node in Virgo. And this makes easier, if we wish to do so, flowing with decisions that are coherent with the most elevated path of the soul, and letting go of known spaces but limitant. That same day, Venus in Gemini makes this sextile with Neptune in Aries, and this is another harmonic aspect. It could be, new connections, new ideas, opportunities that are very aligned with our path and with the purpose of our soul. But again, we need to make a space to listen to ourselves and to take what truly represents this, because Venus is still connecting with Uranus, and it could open many opportunities from this acceleration, or perhaps despair from freeing ourselves from something. And this sextile could also be other perspectives that are helping us to unify inwards, or to accept or to surrender to things that we cannot control right now, and to move forward towards those desires of the soul, even if we don't have the whole information in the rational level of what is coming towards the future. And this is the last aspect that I'm going to talk about today. Mercury in Aries is going to make an square with Jupiter in Cancer. This we could feel 1 or 2 days before, until April 27th, 28th. And this is another factor why I am saying that it is very important to focus in what truly has sense for our path, because this square could be making quick decisions over a situation that we see in a very beneficial way, but because we are not observing aspects that could be not that positive, situations that could bring this apparent emotional relief or immediate satisfaction, but they are a distraction of the true path. This includes excesses, very linked with Jupiter, could be, committing to something, and saying things that we cannot accomplish later, or experiences that are known that we are forcing ourselves to see in an optimistical way, when we know that they are not working, nor being nourishing for us. So if there is a disposition to choose what truly generates this expansion, even if we have to put aside our emotional attachments or experiences that are making us feeling illusory good for 1 minute, and then it is the opposite. This means the experiences that we are creating this illusion of security but are not contributing to the path. These movements could also produce the growth and could bring the true opportunities. So I'm going to close this video here. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.